Hi everyone, this is Dr. Richard Schulman. A recent article in the New York Times spoke about an emerging coronavirus snitch culture, both here in the United States and in other countries around the world. Los Angeles, California's Mayor Eric Garcetti said, and I quote, "Snitches are rewarded," end quote. Rome, Italy's Mayor Virginia Raggi put up a web page where you could snitch on your neighbors who are not following proper social distancing rules. Well, this brought up horrible memories of collaborators in fascist Italy during World War II, and the page was taken down. So, why would a person snitch? The ultimate motivator is fear and a lack of control in your life. Imagine a person doesn't know if he or she is getting sick. They don't know if they're going to have a job. They don't know how long this is going to last. They don't trust the leaders from before the pandemic. So how do you gain control over your life that feels totally out of control? Anger. Why haven't you? Why don't you? And it's easier to call out the asshole who's not following social distancing or some other behavior you don't like, and you could report this person to the police. It gives you a sense of power and control, but it won't last long and it won't change your life. If you really want to change things, rather than calling out the gal at Publix who's not wearing a face mask, write a letter to the CEO and see if you can get company policy changed. If you're upset about the way things are being handled, write to your representatives, write to your congressman. Telling truth to power is a lot more effective than public shaming of an individual. You see, when you have a mandate to shame, what you get is defensiveness and entrenchment rather than persuasion. In Riverside, California, recently, a website was put up to report businesses that were operating and weren't essential. Instead, people gladly turned in their neighbors, and there was a flood of reports of neighbors not behaving properly. The city fathers were horrified. They didn't want this, and they didn't really understand what would happen when they put up the webpage, so they took it down. In history, we have lots of examples of the process of snitching, of denouncing each other, and how negative it can be. The most prominent example was in Nazi Germany. The Nazis found that 42% of the allegations, of the accusations, were not accurate. They were false. They debated taking down the system, but because it kept the public in line, they didn't care who it hurt. They kept it. A French writer, Jean-Marc Bellier, said, and I quote, "What appears to be a civic gesture can ultimately be morally reprehensible." Sociologist Patrick Bergman wrote the book Judge Thy Neighbor, and he documented the Spanish Inquisition, Imperial Russia, and of course Nazi Germany. And his comment was that during times of crisis, there are fear-based denunciations, usually targeting a particular group. In the end now, the experiences of Riverside, California, for example, and a number of other cities who've put up web pages bear talking about and considering. There's a balance point between public safety, quarantine, and tyranny. So, the proposals for moving into the future don't sound like things are ever going to get back to normal, or at least not very soon. The proposals include tracking everyone on their phones with test data and where you've been, who you've seen, have you connected with anybody who's tested positive. Where is this data going to go? How will it be encrypted? Who will have access to it? These are questions that will affect not just you and I, but our children and our grandchildren. Governments rarely give back power that they are given, and our fear will give them more power than they need. You know, the models that came out early in this crisis turned out to be false, some of them by factors of 100. The initial estimates of millions dying became 200,000 in the United States, I'm talking about. Then it became 100,000. Now it's about 60,000. And that includes people who are counted as COVID-19 deaths, even though they didn't test positive. There's a lot of mistrust going on, and the only way we're going to resolve this is with a little more transparency from our government, our leaders, our medical people, and our media. So, a lot of questions to consider, not a lot of answers. I would say, except in a really extreme situation, snitching on your neighbor is an incredibly bad idea. Think about what happened to the collaborators after World War II. Not very pleasant. Eventually, people know, they find out when the tide turns, there's hell to pay. So consider the ideas, especially the balance between tyranny and public health, and stay cool, stay safe, be healthy. I send you love. Peace out.